It's a weird shoebox. Okay, so these are the ANTA KT6s, Klay Thompson's 6th signature sneaker. And when I first saw photos of these online, guys, I was really excited about them because I think it is an absolutely beautiful looking sneaker. I love the design on them, but at the same time, I also had some concerns about them performance-wise and how this design would translate into comfortability and usability on the court. But I'm gonna get into that a little more in depth later in the video. But I just wanna start by saying that usually when ANTA sends over a sneaker, they send me an email beforehand saying that I should be expecting a sneaker. And sometimes if they're sending over a special colorway, they'll give me some background information on what makes that colorway special. And we all know that ANTA is the best in the business right now in giving their athletes colorways that are specific to them and mean something special to that athlete. We just saw ANTA with the GH1 girls colorway, which meant a lot to Gordon Hayward. So when they sent over the press release for this shoe, I have to say, it was one of the longest, most complicated press releases that I have ever read. I had to read over it 5, 6, 7 times straight because there is so much information in this shoe. So I'm gonna try my best. I have my notes on my iPhone because it's just too much information to process. But let's just first talk about the design of the KT6. Now, right off the bat, like I said, I think this is a beautiful looking sneaker, which actually surprised me a little bit because I'm usually not a fan of shoes that have straps. But the KT5 also had a strap shroud-like system on the upper that was non-removable, and I just wasn't a fan of it at all visually or performance-wise. But this time around, the strap looks a little more less robust, so it's a lot more versatile, a lot more flexible, and not as dominant on the silhouette like it was in its predecessor. And I also think if you take the strap away and you just look at the shoe without the strap, obviously you have these Velcro panels here that help the strap stay attached to the shoe. So if there wasn't a strap, it wouldn't be there. I think it also looks like a great sneaker without the strap as well. So with the strap, without the strap, whatever, I just think the KT6 is a very nice looking sneaker. Now, according to that press release, the theme behind the design of the KT6 is high mountains and nature flows, which you can actually see right here on the strap, nature flows that is. And I guess ANTA went with the duality approach here where they're saying, you know, mountains are really powerful where water is invisible, and that's somehow supposed to reflect on Klay Thompson's style of play, which I think is very interesting, but I think some of this kind of went over my head, and that just might be, you know, a lost in translation thing from, you know, the culture in China to, you know, someone like me who lives in North America. But I guess they're saying that Klay Thompson's offense is really smooth like a river and water, where his defense is very stationary and powerful like a mountain. Even though you can't really be stationary on defense, you have to move your feet. But like I said, that just might be a lost in translation thing. Now, if you take a look at the inside of the heel, there's this TPU overlay, which has 6 layers of mountains on them with Klay's achievements on each layer. So for example, the first layer is supposed to represent Klay as the first player to hit 500 threes in the first 3 years of his career. The second layer is supposed to represent Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals, where he hit 11 three-pointers. The third layer is 37 points in a single quarter. The fourth layer is 10 3-points in a half court, 14 3-points in a whole game, and 9 3-points in a single quarter. The fifth layer is 60 points in 29 minutes, while the sixth layer is blank for Klay to achieve new goals in the KT6. So yeah, as you can see, the thought process behind each part of this shoe, because just this little part of the shoe here has so much information packed into it. We could literally spend all day talking about each shoe. I mean, there's all types of calligraphy on the inside of the strap, inside the tongue, on the outsole. there's a lot here that is supposed to not only represent Klay, but Chinese culture as well, which, like I said before in previous videos, is something that I think is absolutely awesome and what I think makes ANTA special. Because, we as North American people, we just think, oh, it's ANTA, they're an overseas brand, they're gonna do their thing, but they make killer shoes. I mean, the KT3 was one of my favorite shoes to play in. The KT5 had its problems, but I thought it was a decent shoe. So I'm very excited to see how the KT6, performs on the court. But like I said earlier, there are some things about them that I'm not quite sure translate very well into on-court performance. Now, while I absolutely love the way the materials look on this shoe, I think it's a very nice looking material visually. In terms of performance, I do have some questions about them, mainly with their ventilation. Aside from a very, very small vent on the underneath of the strap, there is virtually no ventilation in the KT6 whatsoever. This synthetic material on the upper, it just plain doesn't have any ventilation at all. And even though the tongue may look like an open mesh design, it's not. There's an underlay underneath the tongue as well. So you're not getting a ton of ventilation in here. So your feet are gonna sweat a lot, which could lead to some problems like blisters and just an overall uncomfortable experience. But the good news is that even though these are synthetic materials, they are pretty soft. Even this strap, which is basically just a fuse panel, it's very malleable. So I think overall, the materials are flexible. They're not gonna be working against you at all. You're gonna be able to flex and move your foot in any direction you want. So even though they're synthetic, they're not stiff, and that is definitely good news for ANTA. Now, I'm going back to my notes here because ANTA has what they're calling a 3D flow technology system in the KT6, which consists of what they're calling 3D Hug, Smart SAM, and Ulti-Flash. Now, Smart SAM and Ulti-Flash is referenced into the KT6's cushioning, where Smart SAM, which is what I'm calling it, is a technology that reduces the impact of takeoff and landing and absorbs energy at 95.4%, while Ulti-Flash has a rebound rate of up to 70%, as well as better anti-fatigue functions. Now, I'm not a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination, so I don't know if those numbers make sense or contradict each other. All I know is when I set my foot in the KT6s and hopped around my house on the hardwood, the cushioning system was more of a positive than it was a negative. It was very bouncy, very responsive, and I personally thought it was a little bit better than a flash foam. But again, it's hard for me to kind of tell because all the courts out here are closed, so I can't, go hooping them. But just skipping around the house, I thought that the cushioning system was pretty incredible. So if you're looking for something that has bounce and gives you a lot of energy return, I think this new technology system that ANTA put in the KT6s is gonna be right up your alley. Now, in terms of the outsole, the traction pattern uses a mountain water ripple design, which looks very good visually. However, taking a look at the pattern itself, this is one of the most shallow traction patterns that I have ever seen on an ANTA sneaker, which is very surprising because ANTA has had great traction performance throughout the years. I've never had a complaint. Their traction always comes correct indoors or outdoors, which is very important because ANTA comes from China, where a lot of people play outdoor basketball, and ANTA has always been known to cater towards their Chinese customers and giving them outsoles that are very, very durable for outdoor usage. But taking a look at this particular traction pattern with this colorway's translucent outsole, it is very shallow. So I'm very interested to see how well it performs outdoors because as you can see, the outsole isn't very thick at all. So if you burn through it, you're gonna be hitting, the struggle board basically and that cushioning system. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how these hold up over time. But I have no doubt in my mind that the indoor performance of this outsole is going to be spectacular because ANTA always comes correct with their traction. Now, in terms of the fit, I think everything here was true to size, but it is worth noting that the KT signature line has been somewhat infamous for having a narrow fit in the midfoot. So if you consider yourself to have an extremely wide foot, I do recommend going up half a size. However, I do have a slightly wide foot and I thought the midfoot was fine. And everywhere else, the fit was perfect. There was a little bit of dead space in between the front of the shoe and the front of my toes, which is something that I prefer so that my feet aren't slamming into the front of the shoe on hard stops. And the collar area was an area that I thought was very comfortable because if you take a look inside the collar, there are these two very well padded pods inside the collar, which again, just is extremely comfortable, and it really locks in your ankle very securely so you're not having any heel slip or anything of that nature. So I think for most people, you should go true to size with the KT6. But again, if you have an extremely wide foot, you guys know who you are, I would recommend going up half a size. So look, at the end of the day, I think the main takeaway from the ANTA KT6 is just how much thought was put into the design of this silhouette. I mean, everything from the colorway to the technology behind the shoe and who they're making the shoe for, Klay Thompson, and how all that kind of integrates with each other. I think everything here was very well thought out. And even though I do have some concerns about them performance-wise, at the same time, they have some very good things about them as well, like that cushioning system, like the fit, like the security that this shoe gives you overall. So hopefully I'll be able to get into an indoor court soon for you guys so I can give you, kind of a final verdict on this shoe. But just my expert opinion, I think that this shoe is going to be good for a lot of people, but not for everyone, particularly those who are looking for something with a lot of ventilation or for those with wide feet. But for everyone else, I think the KT6 is a very well thought out shoe. Everything from the design to the colorway and even the box. I forgot to tell you guys that this box, which like I said at the beginning is kind of a weird looking box, it's made of recyclable pulp. So everything from the shoe to the box, everything was extremely well thought out. So huge shout out to ANTA for this very interesting experience. And hopefully I'll be able to play in them soon. But let me know what you guys think about these in the comment section below. Is it a cop? Is it a drop? And as always, guys, like and subscribe to the channel for more sneaker related content just like this. My name's Darren. It's been great having you. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.